Hello, team. It's time for the Daily Detangler. Hello, good afternoon. Happy Friday. And I wanted to share about my journey of experiencing something new, especially wrapping up the week from when Catalyst sent his email about kind of getting off the beach, getting into the water, and what that looks like. I've talked on a couple of detanglers about this idea that getting in the water and putting my head under, and immersing myself in that environment can create a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different inputs and a lot of observations. So I want to talk about that idea and double click into that idea of really experiencing something new and what that might feel like, and talk about the journey and how to focus on that. And this is really keying off the insight he had that we continue to struggle with helping people see from the shore on why they should get involved and why they should immerse themselves. And in that email, he talked about we can share what's happening under the water if we're in the ocean, and we can share all the awesome fish we see. We can even bring back, a lobster. And, how do we explain what's happening under the waterline, especially when everybody's so busy. They're not even on the beach. They're in a big city like this, and they're in the business suit. And then here we come, and we plop down in the middle of the crosswalk with our scuba gear on, wanting to talk about go to customer. And this morning, it made me think about, like, what is that reality that our clients might have, or how do we empathize with this idea of go to customer? And, one of the things that I've heard over and over again is people really don't understand the customer like they think they do. And that's probably a good place to start with experiencing something new. Is what is that new environment, and can I relate to it? Can I relate to the idea that customers are evolving and they have different needs than they did even yesterday? If change is constant and change is daily, clients are constantly evolving too. And it made me think of the roles of people involved in the problem solving cycle. So this is a bit of an older artifact, but it's kind of, I remember when I first saw it, it was very illuminating, because at different altitude levels, people have to work together differently. And one of the things that we know is if we can get involved and we can get people to think about earlier on in their problem solving journey, what's going on, and kind of own and shape that vision, executives are 70% more likely to be involved with our solution and buy from us. So zeroing in down here, I remember in like 2010, Scott showed me this, and I said, well, I don't buy this way. I don't become aware of a problem and then understand the problem and then learn the best approach and then assess the current state and figure out the organizational impact and what's the ROI, and then acquire solution elements and communicate the solution. That doesn't seem like how I buy. And then he put out the executive buyer research, and the buyer research really focused in on how executives view the problem solving cycle. And I remember this was when people were really focused on sales and marketing alignment, and we have to move beyond selling product to selling solutions. And he was talking about, well, actually, we don't sell solutions even. We need to sell to how people make decisions. And getting ahead of the RFP means we have to think about how they actually, where these challenges actually come from. And We should be selling to their problem solving process and their decision making process, not selling to their wants and needs. So double clicking on that bottom row and thinking about it, there's a lot of new that happens when you're trying to sell there. And so this is a key ingredient to getting off the shore to me is, can I relate to and have empathy for people, salespeople shifting their message to sell higher, and then what that environment looks like. And, in that view, there's a lot of people who get tangled in that earlier on buying process on the client side. But there are a lot of salespeople and marketers who get tangled on trying to understand what's happening in the customer's problem solving journey. So it's not about pushing product on them as we talk about in productitis. It's about really this exchange of information that needs to happen earlier on to co-create that vision to sell what's possible. And there's a lot of tangles for me, and I think for a lot of sellers. And what does that even mean? Does that mean I have to change what I'm saying? Right? That's the control tangle. Does that mean I'm a failure because I'm getting this training? That's I'm not doing it good enough. Is it what's in it for me? Why do I have to change how I sell? And I've been selling for so long. That's the waste, tangle. So there are a lot of gaps in selling earlier and higher. And it all starts for me is, what's the ocean? Well, the ocean is this idea of the customer's problem solving journey and how they make decisions, not only by themselves, but with others. And if I, try to make this detangler language, I see nine steps that map to the previous nine. And how would I try to explain that ocean? Well, are people aware of the problem in the first place? And then how do I help them become aware? How do I help them become aware that there's an ocean? How do I help them understand what the opportunities are and the challenges are in that ocean? How do I help them learn and figure out how to create an environment where they engage and they want to learn, and maybe even shift their thinking and explore approaches to actually getting in the water? How do I help them acknowledge that their current state isn't set up to the beach? The beach isn't the same thing, and that they have to get prepared and get them to acknowledge that. And then how do they, how would I help them get it more comfortable assessing the risks and what it means to get out of your seat and walk into the water, and then how to enroll other people in what's possible in the ocean. That's number 6, understanding what's in the ocean and how to get other people off their chairs, and what's the risk and reward and the upside of taking action there, and how would I assemble the right gear and equipment and tools and guides to get in the ocean, and then enroll others and get others to come along and engage in that same change. And when I plotted this out, something jumped out at me, and I was really kind of surprised by that, because trying to immerse myself in thinking about how customers make decisions and have more empathy for that, especially today. And the 4 on the left kind of seem like they're seeing. How do I help people see? How do they help them become aware, understand, learn, and acknowledge? What am I putting out to help people see how to do that, and see why that's important, and see what the differences are, and see what they need to learn, and see what they can acknowledge and become aware of. And on the right side, it's a little bit more about solve. Here's my assessment. Let me understand what best practices are. Let me take the best approach and get others involved. And everybody's pretty wired there. So what if I were to focus on these 4 things: making people aware, helping people become more aware? What types of slides could I put out to help them be aware, help them understand, help them learn, and then eventually have them hit the I believe button or I acknowledge button, and opt into what's possible so that they can solve. And I think there's this moment of truth that comes in as, this decision point of, I'm going to get off this chair and I'm going to get in the water. Everything leading up to that what types of things do our clients need to see in order to get off their chair? And then when they get off their chair and acknowledge what needs to be done to get in the ocean, what would that look like? So if I were to take that view and, focus on those four things, I'd share this, example of this picture. What do you see here? What do you see in this picture? Look at it, and what do you see? It's definitely underwater. I don't know about you, but when I first started, I kind of started here in the foreground where the light is. I thought this was cool, and then I went over here, and I'm kind of scanned up to here, and I had to look at it harder to notice this. What is this? See this back here? This is an ice shelf. So even though these colors are bright and red and everything else, this is a ball of ice, and I didn't even see that before. So what would I need to show people in the go-to customer space about becoming more aware of what's under the ocean? And then what can I do to help them understand what that's like, and then learn what that means to them, and then acknowledge that they're not only in the water, but that they can explore this area and be safe, and it would be fun. I can hear all the objections. This is cold. That's cool. I've seen enough. I don't have to get in. I already know how to do this. I did this once before. I don't have to do this again. I don't really care to get wet. My hair is going to be a mess. I don't want people to see me in a wetsuit. I'm going to look like a sausage. I have a problem with my hands, and my hands get numb in the cold. Why would anybody want to do this, right? I can hear a lot of these tangles with getting into the ocean. So what can I do, to help them see and, make them aware, help them become aware, help them understand, help them learn and acknowledge that earlier part of the problem solving process, right up here in the front of it, these 4 steps here, and help them get untangled so that they can see it. How would I do that? And I think one of the things that Catalyst has definitely talked about is we have to help make the experience more accessible, right? So what I did was I just brainstormed out what are some words that explain this experience, and how would I help them get in the water? Well, they'd have to get engaged in order to get in the water. They'd have to participate, they'd have to interact, they'd have to expose themselves and their skills. They'd have to put themselves out there. And this is what putting themselves out there looks like, taking that step, getting engaged, getting immersed in the water, participating, interacting, exposing, involvement, right? And so am I doing that in this environment that we're in? Or am I sitting back and, judging it? But if I were to get in the water and I would get involved and engaged and exposed and immersed and participate, that's going to change how I think, feel, act, and actually what I remember. I think there's an experience that's created. If I actually did dive and touch that ice shelf, I would remember that the rest of my life. So there's this idea of, how do I overcome what I'm thinking? How do I overcome my lack of action, and maybe and my anxieties, and get, using my language, get detangled so that I can experience this and get involved and engaged, and create a lasting memory, right? And isn't that what an experience is all about? And then what would I do after that? If I came back onto shore, how would I share that? And what would I say about what I was thinking and feeling, acting and remembering? How would I articulate that and communicate that? And what would I say? I'd probably be like proud of myself. I'd feel happy and content, and I'd be like, look at me, I did this, and who cares if I look like a sausage? And I feel like I'm, achieving something. Maybe I'm proud of myself for putting myself out there, or I think other people are going to think I'm cool, and these motivations could drive me to do more things like that? And, am I helping people see and solve that? Right. So this is, just how do I help people see that this is what it's like to go to customer? And then how do I not just solve on them and say, hey, go do this? How do I create a way to see this? That's not easy. And what does that look like? And I thought about this idea of like a telescope or a mask. Like this came out of like if I was going to put on and get under the ocean, I would put on a mask around my face and put that over my eyes, and what am I seeing in that environment? And I thought about this idea of if I was on the shore and somebody was telling me what they were seeing, I would think in terms of layers like, well, you have people, you have functions, you have strategy, you have the business environment, and all these market forces. Now everybody knows what's under the water. Everybody, and if I'm on the shore and you're explaining to me what you're seeing through your mask, this is, Porter's stuff. This is Michael Porter stuff. This is Sharon and Bossity stuff. This is, everybody knows that this is what's happening in the ocean. You have market forces, there's a lot of waves. Because of that environment, you have to adjust your strategy, you have to organize your people and your resources and get them to achieve things, right? That's what we have to do. And that's a very much a kind of an operate bias that I would have if I were sitting on the shore. But if I put the mask on and actually went out, what would I actually see? And I was just kind of playing with this, but maybe I'd see something like, well, it's not so much about the market forces, it's the experiences that people are having in the ocean, the outcomes that they're driving and achieving, the goals that they're attaining together, the way that they're working with teams, and then how they're taking action. It'd probably be a bit of a different view if I were out in the ocean. And I think there's a change in how companies are working today, but can I explain that? Right. So how would I explain that? I'd have a hard time helping people see that. And that's the challenge is, how do I help people see that this is different and not just want to solve it? So that's an example of some of the challenges that this getting off the beach would have, and just thinking about the different environment, how goals are set, who works with who, what an action is versus an activity, all these things we've been talking about. And then I would say, well, there's this challenge of what is swimming and what does it mean to get around and out there and propel myself. It has to do with in the future, this idea of go to customer, and that's how we relate to things, and this is how we get stuff done. And going to customer in that new lens, if I'm looking through that mask, is there's no org chart. There's no org chart for me to get my authority from. And so how do I influence without that org chart authority? Where do I get my authority from? Is it an official charter? Is it because people like me? How do I influence them? And if I don't know how to do that, and I don't know how to connect those dots and help other people connect those dots, then how are we going to achieve outcomes and goals and create experiences together? Because creating experiences together requires this idea of working together and orchestration. So how would I bring people together? Well, if I'm on the chair on the beach, I might say, well, all you got to do is tell them. You just tell them what to do. Or yeah, we already do that. We already do that. I already know how to do all that. And I'm the boss and people do what I say. And that just happens. But there are all kinds of challenges in getting people to do things. I could try to, rationalize my way there. I could explain things in terms of a higher calling and a purpose to get in the water. I can give them peer pressure and explain how everybody's in the water without them. I can actually beg them to get in the water. I can normalize the water and bring some water back and bring starfish and lobsters back and try to help them see that it's not bad out there and help them see that it's good. And I can consult with them and ask them a lot of open-ended questions. I could yell at them and tell them to get in the water and give them a kick in the butt. Like there's a lot of things I could do, but how are any of these going to work if they don't see? Right. So it's this idea of it's not about authority, or even having a charter so much as it is helping people achieve something new together and get in the ocean together and swim around together when it's not natural, right? So what does that look like? And how do I go about it? And that's the essence of leadership. And leadership is action, not position. How do I help people lead? What can I do to help people lead and get in the ocean? Well, I think they lead by example, right? They get in the ocean and they start showing people what it's like, and they try to relate to it. They don't lead from the back, they lead from the front. They do what they're asking others to do. And I think there's something powerful in our ability as a team to say, look, we're modeling the reality that you're experiencing so that we can wrestle with it too. And I think that's part of this idea of go to customer, is to actually embrace the VUCA environment that clients have and bring it internally. Nobody has enough information. Everybody's complaining about too much speed. The asks are constantly evolving, things like that. So how do we lead by example and get into the water? And that's really what experiencing something new is this idea of recognizing that there's something new and jumping in, not just sitting on the shore. So how do I detangle myself by, experiencing something new is by trying something new. And I tried something new here by trying to relate to and have more empathy for the go-to-market environment and the changes that we're asking people to make, and how they make decisions and how they influence and how they work together. And sharing some struggles that I'm having leading with me. I don't have the words and the language to explain the differences in these environments. I don't have the ability to get everybody motivated to go to customer. And I can't, I struggle to make it relatable. So how do I do that? And how do I keep practicing to make this more accessible to people? And that's really what experiencing something new is about, is being the first through the wall. Everybody, you get bloody, but you make it easier for others. Just like, the Forsberg flop, where he was able to do the high jump over his back and then everybody does it, or breaking the 4-minute mile. It's because somebody did it. And I think that's really what it's about, is can we explain and show people what it's like to get in the ocean when they think that they know everything there is to know about it, or they're too scared to actually engage in it. So that's the experiencing something new daily detangler. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Take care.